Welcome to Next Level Play Therapy, a weekly podcast dedicated to supporting the next generation of child and adolescent therapists to provide exceptional play therapy services. We'll explore all things play therapy to elevate your work with children and adolescents using the therapeutic powers of play. I'll discuss practical tips and ideas so you can provide a transformative experience for your young clients and make a real difference in their lives. So get ready to take your play therapy skills to the next level and make a lasting impact in the lives of children, adolescents, and families. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of Next Level Play Therapy. Today, I want to talk about how to develop your Santray miniature collection. So I love doing in-person Santray trainings. When I got trained 20 plus years ago, I didn't know much about this Santray thing. My colleague friend, we shared an office together. We were in the same group practice. She had this sandbox and these little miniature things, and she seemed to know what she was doing. So I asked her about it, and she told me about this Santray training coming up, and it was a little expensive, and it was 3 days, and I didn't know if we don't make very much money, and I was thinking, I don't know if I want to invest the money, but she assured me that it was worth the investment. So off I went, and we were starting the Santray training. And I thought in my head, I was thinking, this seems a little weird. I don't know about this, but I trusted my friend. So off I went and stayed through the training. And I will tell you, by the end of that training, I was hooked. I was also a firm believer by the end of that training that you really only know the power of Santray if you have gotten your hands in the Santray, moving miniatures around, and experienced creating and processing the Santrays that you've created, along with those of some colleagues. So that's why I'm a firm believer. I've done the online Santray trainings. They're good too. And to me, if you really need to get some training to get started and your only option is to do an online, I think that's good. I do think at some point it's really important to do an in-person Santray training so that you really, really understand. And the other thing about the virtual trainings, it's nice, especially if you're doing some online counseling, if you're doing like virtual play therapy sessions, it's nice to experience how it works virtually as well. And at some point, if you're doing in-person counseling sessions with your clients and you want to use Santray training, I am a firm believer that it's important to go to an in-person training where you're creating and processing and learning by creating and processing your own Santrays and the Santrays of others. And so that's why I love doing the in-person Santray trainings. At the end of this, I'm going to talk a little bit about some trainings that I have, a training I have coming up in person this month. When I was thinking about topics for the live stream episode and in the podcast, I thought about a question that comes up all the time when I am doing these trainings, and that is, how do I create my Santray miniature collection? And it's really overwhelming, not knowing where to start. So that's why I thought this would be a good episode, would be useful to people about how to create your Santray miniature collection. So let's get started. If you are watching live today, I would love to see who's here, um, what your name is, what population you work with, where you work, what questions you have about Santray miniatures. Um, are you using Santray? What are your thoughts about Santray? So let's have a conversation. If you're watching on the replay, I would still love to know who's watching, what your questions are, what population you work with. So go ahead and post that in the comments. I love to see who's watching, what you guys are doing as far as your Santray miniature collection. For those of you on the podcast, absolutely, I would love to hear from you as well. Send me an email. If you find the information useful, please share it across your social media platforms. If you're listening on the podcast, I would love to get your feedback. So if you would leave a review wherever you're listening to podcasts, that would be awesome. So let us get started. The first thing that always, to me, the question is that always comes up is what should I have in my Santray miniature collection? Like, where do I get started? Because a lot of times the feedback that I get, and I remember this, I remember asking all these questions, which is, what should I buy? What should I not buy? Where can I get these things? What should I look for? What kind of miniatures should I have? All of these are really important questions, because if you're in the play therapy arena and you have a playroom, you know that all toys are not created equal. The toys need to have a therapeutic value to them, because we're helping children access the therapeutic powers of play. The same is true for your Santray miniatures. All miniatures are not necessarily created equal. You want to make sure that you are, at least in the beginning, when you don't have a very big collection, you want to make sure the ones that you're getting are therapeutic in nature. And so having an idea of where to start, I've found, can be really useful. So we have Real True Karen on Instagram, psychodrama trainer here. I worked with Santray years with adults using a combination with psychodrama, only work with adults, just interested in what you have to say. Well, welcome. I think we follow each other on Instagram because I've seen some of your posts. Yeah, I use Santray with adults all the time, especially when I'm working with adult clients and I want to help them really access some of those early attachment wounds and trauma. It is a really powerful way to do that. And when I was working with adolescents in a residential facility, we used psychodrama. So I love that. I love psychodrama with families when I'm doing family therapy using play therapy. I think that's a really powerful way to help family members kind of work through some of their trauma that they're working through. In play therapy, I think we use a lot of puppets with kids and use kind of psychodrama through puppet play. So yeah, I all the expressive arts, and Santray therapy is one of the expressive arts. And one of the things that's nice about expressive arts is you can really kind of bypass the cognitive left brain processes where people may not be able to articulate what is going on through implicit memory experiences, otherwise known as the unconscious. And Santray is a great way to do that. And so to me, that's one of the really important things about making sure you have miniatures in your Santray collection that help clients access that. The other part is knowing what to do with that. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end with the training I have coming up. And having the miniatures, to me, is is the first step. So here's some of my tips for getting started. So the first tip that I have is really focus on the needs of your population. So if you're working with adults or adolescents or children, you want to think about where they are developmentally and what areas that they're kind of struggling with. I think in the beginning, if you start with some of the basic figures like trees, fences, water fountains, you have some like fighting figures, and all of these would be good no matter what population you're working with. These are kind of staples, like army figures, knights, some mythical creatures like wizards or fairies or dragons. You want to be able to have some animals, some sea life, insects, houses, and vehicles, and maybe some police or firefighters, some like rescue figures. If you can get at least a few miniatures from each of those collections, that's a good place to start. And in my previous live stream episode, I did not last week's, the week before that. So 2 weeks ago, I talked a lot more about the different categories and what to have in the categories. So if you want some more information about that, then you can go watch the live stream episode from a couple of weeks ago, or if you're listening to the podcast, it'll be a couple of weeks ago. The easiest place to find some of the replays is you could pop over to my YouTube channel at Cathi Spooner Renewing Hearts Training. If you're watching on Instagram, you could go in my grid. LinkedIn, it's probably a little easier to go over to my YouTube channel. So I go in a lot more depth over there. So the other thing is, think about the population that you work with. So for example, if you work with children, the likelihood you have children who have parents who are maybe going through divorce or kind of in the process or already divorced, it's oftentimes a good idea to get brides and grooms, like the cake toppers. If you can get them separated instead of together, then it allows the ability for children to use those miniatures separately because their parents aren't together anymore. The brides and grooms oftentimes for children are symbolic of parents. When you think about it, it makes sense because they're married. And so whatever, like the population that you're working with, if with children and their parents are divorced, just make sure that you get some of those. Those are always good if you can find them. Amazon is always a good place to get some if you're having a hard time finding things in stores. If you work with children who are court involved or maybe have had a lot of interaction with police, maybe parents have an addiction and they've experienced police coming to their home, it's always a good idea to have representation of the legal justice system. If you can, courtrooms are a little hard to get, but you can use blocks. Kids can use blocks to create that. So just think about the population that you work with. You may want to have like 1 or 2 of those miniatures available. The thing is, each of the categories, if you have at least a few from each category, children will be able to find what they need to work through whatever it is that they need to work through. That's true of adolescents and adults as well. I think the main thing that I like to encourage people who are just working on getting their Santray miniature collection started is it's okay to start small. A lot of times you can get starter kits that still feel a little expensive, but you get at least a few items from each category. And then you can always build from there. So you don't need to get everything all at once, because your clients will be able to use what you have to get what they need in order to work through whatever it is that they need to work through. So if you start small with just a few miniatures from each category, then it allows you to work on, use more of an intentional approach to what you're purchasing and adding to your collection, rather than trying to get everything because you feel like you don't have enough and you want to get everything so nothing gets missed out. If you take encouragement from the fact that just get a few from each category, your clients will get what they need, then that'll help take some pressure off so that you can see how your clients are using the miniatures that you have, and then kind of see where you may want to expand next with your miniatures. So that, at least in my mind, will hopefully take some pressure off of trying to feel like you have to get everything all at once. Okay, so I have full disclosure. If you've listened to any of my previous live stream episodes or watched the replays or listened to the podcast, you will know that I have 2 dogs. And my husband just left for work. And now my dogs are in the room with me. They like to come hang out in here with me. So what does that mean for you guys, and why would I tell you I have dogs other than they're super cute? They like to dig in the carpet, or they make these roll around on the carpet and make these moany sounds that if you don't know they're in their room, it may sound like I'm doing something questionable in the background. So I have Luna to the right of me. She's about ready to start rolling around and moaning. And she's my little dog. Lily's going to walk in and out. So if you hear any strange, that's good, Karen, because they're a little quiet. Luna's about ready to get kind of noisy. I can see her starting to get ready to roll around. And sometimes if you're watching the video, sometimes you can see them walking. You'll see Luna. You'll see her little tail kind of in the background in some of my videos. It's really funny. Anyways, so just be aware. The next thing that I think is helpful to think about when you're working on building your Santray miniature collection and you're kind of worried about finances, time, it can be a little overwhelming thinking about how much money you're spending creating your Santray miniature collection. If you're a play therapist, that'll include your playroom. It'll feel a little overwhelming. So I'm all about trying to save money and save time. And so here are some tips that I have shared. I share these all the time in my Santray miniature collection, in my Santray trainings. And I also have a PDF. So if you want to hop over to my website, I have a whole free PDF on the categories and some tips. One of the places I love getting Santray miniatures, to me, it's a little bit like going on a treasure hunt when I go to the secondhand stores or thrift shops. We're in the summertime now, so this is prime yard sale season where I have found so many good miniatures and yard sales. So here in the United States, we call them yard sales or garage sales. My husband's from the Northeast in the United States, so in his neck of the woods, they called them tag sales because you put tags on your items. So for those of you outside of the United States, this is where we sell our used things that we don't want anymore. We sell them really, really cheap. So the idea is one person's junk is another person's treasure. And when it comes to sand tray miniatures, it is a treasure hunt. I have gotten some good stuff at yard sales. One of the funny stories I like to tell all the time is, so I was a little bit obsessed with building my sand tray miniature collection. And you can't see my miniatures now because I moved my sand tray training location to another place. So, but if you watch some of my previous live streams, well, you'll see all my sand tray miniatures behind me. I have a lot, which is nice when I'm doing trainings because then people have lots of access. But anyway, so back when I was still working on building my sand tray miniature collection for like 15 years, I was super obsessed. I'm still kind of obsessed, but I make myself behave now because I really am running out of shelf space. So this is when my kids were little. And, I don't know, those of you in the United States, sometimes your whole neighborhood, they'll do yard sales. And so my neighborhood at the time was having a yard sale. And my youngest son, I think he was like 9 at the time, maybe, he and his little buddy were each selling their toys. So my son was selling his toys in our garage sale, yard sale space, and his buddy down the street was selling at his space. And he was like, Mom, you have to go. My friend, his friend's name, he's selling his toys. You really want to go, Mom, because he's got some good ones. You're going to want to buy them. So I'm thinking, okay. So I go down there. I bought that child out. I probably, this is a yard sale, so things are like $1 here and there. I probably spent like $40. That kid hit the jackpot with me. I must have bought all his miniatures. He had good ones. So those yard sales, and now it's the summer season. This is a great time to go to yard sales and get some miniature collection, things for your miniature collection. People selling their Christmas village items. You can have those Christmas villages with fences and trees and houses and lights. And nowadays we also have the Halloween villages. There's in Michael's, which is a kind of a craft store here in the US. They sell like these fairy villages. So people getting rid of those. It's a great time to get some miniatures. So yard sales, secondhand stores. I've gotten some really good kind of unique, super cheap items. I also got tons of little houses from secondhand stores. The other thing is you can purchase like the kits. Like you get these kits with animals, like farm animals, and it'll come with fences and trees, or jungle animals. It'll come with trees and lots of different kinds of animals. That's really nice. So you could get those here in the United States. We have like Walmart or Target or like dollar stores or the $5 store. You can get them super cheap. The only thing that you have to think about when you get the kits, especially the really inexpensive one, is sometimes they don't stand up very well. So if you're trying to display them on your shelves, they can fall over a lot. That's just one kind of thing, but you can figure out how to arrange those so that it works out okay. The other thing is in the fall here in the United States, we're going to have Halloween, and usually the craft stores in different places will have those Halloween collections, Halloween Town. They start putting out Christmas Town. So if you go shopping during those holiday times, if you can usually get items that are kind of representative of that season. So for example, when you're looking at those Halloween towns, it's a great time to get tombstones and little coffins. And in Michael's, I'm sure some of the other craft stores as well, you can get the little wooden coffins that are not painted, but you can open them, and they're like a really good size to put things in. And I think they're like $1. They're so inexpensive that it's a really good time to get those. The other thing is asking friends and family, when they're getting rid of their kids' toys, you have to explain to them what it is that you're asking for, what it is that you need. Be really specific and just say, these are the only things that I need. I don't need everything. So if you have these, great, something like this, that would be awesome. If not, then, don't worry about it. Otherwise, you're going to get inundated with things that you don't need, and then you'll be taking them off to the secondhand store yourself. When my kids were little, every 6 months, we went through all their toys. We had 3 piles. We had toys that I want to keep, toys that I'm going to donate to mom, and toys that we're going to donate to the secondhand store or something like that. So I got a lot of good toys from my kids. So that was awesome. So those are some things to think about, just some ways to save money so it's not overwhelming when you're getting started. So those are my tips for today, but let me do a quick recap. One is getting started building your Santray miniature collection can be really overwhelming, especially financially. Don't get discouraged. When you're working with kids, it's really the best to kind of focus on what their needs are, what their interests are. Nowadays, the new Inside Out 2 movie has come out. So they're the new Inside Out miniature characters are now for sale. The likelihood those will be useful. Those are good even for adults, adolescents. Those are good ones. So think about the issues also that your client population is typically experiencing and start there. Just start with a few items from each category. I always say starting with animals, any kind of animals is always a good idea. Children will use animals in a variety of ways. So start small and build from there. Start with a few items from each category in your Santray miniature collection. You can start with, get a starter kit and then build from there, or you can go and get a few miniatures from each category and just start small. Your clients will get what they need. And then the third thing that is just some money saving tips, money saving, time saving. Go ask friends and families, be very specific though. Otherwise you'll get way too many things. There are some money saving ways that are not going to overwhelm you financially. Summertime is a great time to go to the yard sales and see what's available. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. It's kind of fun. Shop seasonally, like the Halloween town, the Christmas town. Shop at the secondhand stores, buy the kits where you can get a bunch of them all together. So that will at least help you get started. So that is it for today. If you're interested, So, in learning what to do, so it's great to get your collection and get that started. Knowing what to do with them, to me, is also key. So now that you have your Sandtray miniature collection, you have your Sandtray, what do you do with that? How do you figure out what your clients are representing in their Sandtray? How do you know how to make sense of it, recognize the themes, understand what those themes mean, and then what do you do with that? What do you say? What do you not say with your clients in order to effectively process what it is they are working through? So that unconscious, because a lot of times they're not consciously going to be aware of the depth of what's going on, especially when you're working with kids, because then you're helping them access those therapeutic powers of play. And what do you do to help them work through whatever it is that they're working through? And to me, that's where good Sandtray training can be a game changer. I know it was for me. Prior to taking the training, I felt lost, overwhelmed, and did not feel good about what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was using it effectively. Once I went to that Sandtray training, it was a game changer. I had a place to start. I knew how to make sense of things, and it made a real difference in the work that I was doing with clients as well. So I have an in-person Sandtray training this month, July 20 and 21. I am here in the training is going to be in Southern Utah. It's beautiful there. So if you're interested in the training, it's called Sandtray and Play Therapy with Children and Adolescents. You can pop over to my website at rhplaytherapytraining.com. Go to the courses page, and then I have some other courses on my website. If you're interested in the Sandtray training, you'll want to look for the training that is Sandtray and Play Therapy with Children and Adolescents. I also have the free resource. If you want to pop over to the free resources page, you can see where I have a free PDF for Sandtray miniatures, plus some other ones on there if you're interested. And I will see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Next Level Play Therapy. I hope you found the discussion valuable and gained new insights and ideas to support your work helping children, adolescents, and families heal. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps to improve and reach more people who can benefit from this information. Remember, play therapy is a powerful tool for healing and growth. Whether you're a new play therapist or experienced, I encourage you to continue your learning journey to unlock the potential of play in your own work and relationships. If you have any questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media and visit my website at Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training to stay updated on upcoming episodes, trainings, and resources. Thank you once again for listening to Next Level Play Therapy. Until next time, keep playing, learning, and growing.